Hi there, animal explorers! Welcome back to Daisy's Animal Facts, the show where we dive deep into the coolest, wildest, and most amazing animals on Earth. I'm your host, Daisy, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have you join me on another incredible adventure into the animal kingdom. Today's episode is about one of the most fascinating, surprising, and underestimated creatures in the world. They carry their homes on their backs, leave shimmering trails wherever they go, and have some of the most incredible superpowers in nature. They can sleep for 3 years, regrow their own eyes, and some of them are faster than you might think. Can you guess what they are? That's right, snails! So grab your magnifying glass, put on your exploring hat, and get ready for a shell-tastic journey. We're heading into the amazing, slimy world of snails, where slow and steady really does win the race. Let's go! Snails are incredible soft-bodied animals called gastropods, which means stomach foot, because they basically crawl around on their bellies. They belong to a huge group of animals called mollusks, which also includes octopuses, clams, and squid. Pretty cool family, right? Most snails have spiral shells that protect their soft bodies, but some snails called slugs don't have shells at all. The shell is made of calcium carbonate, the same stuff that makes up seashells and chalk. As snails grow, their shells grow with them, adding new layers in a beautiful spiral pattern. Snails are found almost everywhere on Earth. They live in oceans, rivers, lakes, gardens, forests, and even deserts. Some snails are tiny enough to fit on the tip of your finger, while others are as big as a dinner plate. These amazing creatures have been around for a really, really long time. Scientists have found snail fossils that are over 500 million years old. That means snails were crawling around on Earth way before the dinosaurs existed. There are over 40,000 different species of snails in the world. That's more types of snails than there are types of birds, mammals, reptiles, and amphibians combined. Let's meet some of these amazing snail species. Garden snails are probably the ones you're most familiar with. They love to munch on plants in gardens and come out especially after it rains. Their shells are usually brown with darker stripes, and they can live up to 25 years. Sea snails live in the ocean and come in incredible colors and shapes. Some look like beautiful jewels, while others have spiky shells that look like medieval armor. The largest sea snail is the Australian trumpet snail, which can grow up to 35 inches long. Freshwater snails live in rivers, lakes, and ponds. Some of them can even breathe both underwater and in air. They help keep the water clean by eating algae and dead plants. Giant African land snails are some of the biggest snails in the world. They can grow up to 8 inches long and weigh as much as a small hamster. They're actually quite smart and can be trained to navigate simple mazes. Cone snails are beautiful but dangerous sea snails. They have gorgeous shells that look like ice cream cones, but they hunt fish and other sea creatures with venomous stingers. Don't worry though, they live in tropical oceans, not in your backyard. Tree snails live high up in trees in tropical forests. They come in amazing bright colors like pink, orange, and purple, and some are so rare that scientists are still discovering new species. Each type of snail has special adaptations that help them survive in their particular environment, but they all share the same basic snail superpowers. Snails are some of the most adaptable creatures on Earth. They've found ways to live in almost every environment you can imagine. From the deepest parts of the ocean to the highest mountains, snails have made themselves at home. Land snails love moist environments because they need to keep their bodies from drying out. You'll find them in gardens, forests, under logs, in leaf piles, and anywhere that stays damp and cool. They're especially active at night and after rain showers when the air is humid. Sea snails live at every depth of the ocean. Some float near the surface, while others crawl along the ocean floor thousands of feet down where it's completely dark. The deepest living snail ever found was over 26,000 feet below the surface. Freshwater snails live in rivers, lakes, streams, and ponds. Some of them can even survive in temporary puddles by sealing themselves in their shells and waiting for the water to return. Some snails have adapted to live in extreme environments. Desert snails can survive in hot, dry places by digging into the sand and sealing themselves in their shells during the hottest parts of the day. Mountain snails can survive freezing temperatures by producing their own antifreeze. Snails are also great at making themselves comfortable in human environments. They live in gardens, parks, and even inside buildings. Some snails have traveled around the world by hitching rides on ships and planes. Snails might look simple, but their bodies are actually incredible engineering marvels. Every part of a snail's body has a special purpose that helps them survive and thrive in their environment. Here are some amazing snail body parts and what they do. The shell. A snail's shell is like a mobile home that protects them from predators and weather. It's made of calcium carbonate and grows in a spiral pattern. When snails feel threatened, they can pull their entire body inside and close the opening with a special door called an operculum. The foot. A snail's foot is their entire bottom surface. It's packed with muscles that contract in waves to push the snail forward. They also release slime from their foot that helps them glide smoothly and stick to surfaces. Tentacles. Most snails have fur tentacles on their heads. The longer ones have eyes at the tips, while the shorter ones are used for smelling and feeling. If a snail loses an eye, it can actually grow a new one. The radula. This is like a snail's tongue, but it's covered with thousands of tiny teeth. Different snails have different types of radulas depending on what they eat. Some are like tiny rasps for scraping algae, while others are like little spears for hunting. Breathing. Land snails breathe through a hole called a pneumostom that opens and closes like a little mouth. Sea snails have gills like fish, and some freshwater snails can breathe both ways. Slime production. Snails are slime-making machines. They produce different types of slime for different purposes, some for crawling, some for protection, and some for communication. One of the most fascinating things about snails is their slime. This isn't just gross goo. It's actually an incredible substance that gives snails amazing superpowers. Snail slime is made up of water and special proteins that create a substance that's both liquid and solid at the same time. Scientists call this a non-Newtonian fluid, which means it acts differently under different conditions. Here's what makes snail slime so amazing. Perfect lubrication. The slime reduces friction, allowing snails to glide smoothly over rough surfaces without getting hurt. They can even crawl over razor blades without being cut. Super glue properties. The same slime that helps them slide can also help them stick to surfaces. Snails can crawl up glass walls and hang upside down from ceilings without falling. Self-healing. If the slime trail gets damaged, it can repair itself. This helps snails navigate back along their own trails. Communication. Snails can follow each other's slime trails to find food, mates, or safe places to hide. It's like leaving invisible messages for other snails. Protection. The slime protects snails from bacteria and helps heal cuts and scrapes on their bodies. Moisture retention. The slime helps keep snails from drying out, which is super important for their survival. Scientists are so impressed by snail slime that they're trying to create artificial versions for use in medicine and technology. Some researchers think snail slime could inspire new types of glue, bandages, and even cosmetics. Snails have incredibly diverse diets, and different species eat completely different things. Most snails are herbivores, which means they eat plants, but some are carnivores that hunt other animals, and others are omnivores that eat both plants and animals. Plant-eating snails love to munch on leaves, flowers, fruits, and vegetables. They use their radullas to scrape tiny bits of food into their mouths. Garden snails are famous for eating lettuce, cabbage, and other garden plants. Carnivorous snails are like underwater hunters. Some sea snails hunt fish, worms, and other snails. Cone snails are amazing hunters that can shoot venomous darts to stun their prey faster than you can blink. Algae-eating snails help keep aquatic environments clean by eating algae off rocks, plants, and glass. They're like nature's cleanup crew. Decomposer snails eat dead plants and animals, helping to recycle nutrients back into the environment. They're super important for keeping ecosystems healthy. Filter-feeding snails strain tiny particles of food from the water. They're like living water filters. Some snails have very specific diets. There are snails that only eat certain types of flowers, snails that only eat fungus, and even snails that eat other snails' shells to get calcium for their own shells. Snails don't have teeth like we do, but their radullas can have thousands of tiny teeth. A garden snail might have over 14,000 teeth. These teeth wear out and get replaced throughout the snail's life. Snails are famous for being slow, but their method of movement is actually incredibly sophisticated. They don't just slide around randomly. They use a complex system of muscle contractions and slime production to move efficiently. Here's how snail movement works. Muscle waves. A snail's foot contains thousands of tiny muscles that contract in waves from back to front. These waves push the snail forward in a smooth, continuous motion. Slime coordination. As the muscles contract, the snail releases different types of slime. Under the moving parts of the foot, the slime is liquid and slippery. Under the stationary parts, it's more solid and grippy. Energy efficiency. Even though snails are slow, they're incredibly energy efficient. They use less energy to move than almost any other animal. Precision navigation. Snails can control their movement very precisely. They can stop, start, turn, and even back up. They can also adjust their speed based on the surface they're crawling on. Climbing abilities. Thanks to their slime and suction cup-like foot, snails can climb straight up walls, across ceilings, and over obstacles much larger than themselves. The fastest land snail on record was a garden snail that reached a speed of 0.03 miles per hour during a snail race. That might sound slow, but for a snail, that's like sprinting. Some sea snails can actually swim by flapping parts of their foot like wings. These swimming snails can move much faster than their crawling cousins. Snails experience the world very differently than we do. They have special senses that help them navigate, find food, and avoid danger. Vision. Snails have eyes at the tips of their longer tentacles, but they don't see the world like we do. They can detect light and dark, see basic shapes, and notice movement, but they can't see fine details or colors very well. Smell and taste. Snails are smell and taste experts. They can detect chemical signals in the air and water using their tentacles and other parts of their body. They can smell food from far away and follow scent trails to find it. Touch. Snails are very sensitive to touch. They can feel vibrations through their shells and bodies, which helps them detect predators or other snails nearby. Chemical detection. Snails can detect tiny amounts of chemicals in their environment. This helps them find food, identify other snails, and avoid toxic substances. Magnetic sense. Some snails can sense Earth's magnetic field, which helps them navigate over long distances. Pressure sense. Snails can feel changes in air pressure, which helps them predict weather changes. That's why you often see lots of snails after rainstorms. Snails process all this sensory information with a brain that has only about 20,000 neurons. That's tiny compared to human brains, but it's perfectly designed for snail life. You might think snails are solitary creatures, but many species are actually quite social. They communicate, cooperate, and even form communities. Chemical communication. Snails leave chemical messages in their slime trails that other snails can read. These messages might say food this way, danger ahead, or looking for a mate. Slime trail following. Many snails will follow each other's slime trails, creating snail highways that lead to good food sources or safe hiding spots. Mating rituals. Some snails have elaborate courtship behaviors. Garden snails perform a slow-motion dance before mating, and some species even exchange love darts, small, arrow-like structures that help with reproduction. Hibernation groups. During cold weather, many snails will group together in protected spots like under logs or in crevices. Clustering together helps them stay warm and conserve moisture. Feeding aggregations. When snails find a good food source, they'll often feed together in groups. This makes it easier for other snails to find food by following the chemical trails. Parental care. While many snails lay their eggs and leave them, some species actually care for their young. They'll guard their eggs and even help the baby snails find food after they hatch. Some snails are even known to form long-term partnerships, staying together for months or even years. Snail reproduction is full of surprises. Many snails are hermaphrodites, which means each individual has both male and female reproductive organs. This gives them some amazing advantages. Flexibility. Since most snails can be either a mother or a father, any two snails that meet can potentially mate. This makes it much easier to find a partner. Egg laying. Most snails lay their eggs in protected spots like under logs, in the soil, or attached to rocks. The eggs are often covered in a protective jelly that keeps them moist. Development. Baby snails hatch as tiny versions of adults, complete with shells. They don't go through a larval stage like many other animals. Shell building. As soon as baby snails hatch, they start building their shells. They need to eat calcium-rich foods to make their shells strong. Growth. Young snails grow quickly when food is abundant. They add new layers to their shells throughout their lives. Parental investment. While many snails don't care for their young, some species are devoted parents. They'll guard their eggs, help their babies find food, and even carry them to safety. Some species of snails can even reproduce without mating at all, creating exact copies of themselves. This is called parthenogenesis, and it's like having a snail clone. Snails might seem simple, but they're actually quite intelligent. They can learn, remember, and even solve problems. Scientists have discovered that snails can even be trained to respond to certain stimuli, just like other animals. Some researchers have taught snails to navigate simple mazes and remember the correct path. Humans have had a relationship with snails for thousands of years. In many cultures, snails are considered food, medicine, or even symbols of good luck. Even though snails are tough survivors, they face many challenges in the modern world, such as habitat destruction, pollution, invasive species, overcollection, and predators. Many snail species are now endangered, and some have already gone extinct. Scientists are working to protect the most vulnerable species and their habitats. And that's our incredible journey into the world of snails. From their amazing slime superpowers to their surprising intelligence, snails show us that being small and slow doesn't mean being boring. They're innovative engineers, skilled communicators, and essential parts of healthy ecosystems. These remarkable creatures have so much to teach us about patience, adaptation, and making the most of what you have. Every time we learn something new about snails, we discover more about the amazing diversity of life on Earth. Thanks for crawling along with us today on Daisy's Animal Facts. If you enjoyed learning about these incredible shelled superstars, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us again for our next adventure into the animal kingdom. And remember, the more we understand about animals, the better we can protect them and their habitats. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and take it slow. Friends, the natural world is full of amazing creatures waiting to be discovered. And snails are just one example of the incredible animals that call our planet home. Sometimes the most amazing adventures happen when we slow down and really look at the world around us.